Hey everybody, Invisiblekatana here. I am doing a review for Bright. There's going to be spoilers, of course, as the title suggests. I'll let you guys know when I get to the spoiler section. But this was like the big blowout movie of 2017. Not in the best way, unfortunately, but I think it became such a huge deal because a lot of people were looking forward to this, myself included, based on the trailer. Insanely awesome looking concept, and it's like, all right, well, how's this going to play out? And ultimately, it was kind of a meh movie. Some people like absolutely hate it. I don't think it's that bad. People like everything. It's like, it was first it was The Last Jedi, like this is the worst movie ever made, and then this came out and Last Jedi was like, whoa. But I don't think either of those are horrible. I personally love The Last Jedi, but this movie I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was a horrible movie. I certainly didn't think it was like a great movie either. I just thought it was like it's an okay movie. Some cool action sequences, a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense, and then there's other stuff that's just in there in general where it's like that's just not that great. Going into this, which is super funny, I swear I didn't know that the movie was about a magic wand. I watched the trailer like one time, and that was it. I saw the trailer once. I was like, that's cool. I'll see that when it comes out. I didn't need it was just like sweet. I thought the movie was about like Will Smith's character finding Excalibur, because like in the trailer they made it seem like the sword was like the super important thing. I thought that sword was going to be like the magic wand. Even when I was watching the movie, I was like, oh, okay, the sword is the magic wand. It's not like Excalibur. That's not what they're hiding. It's a magic wand. That's what I thought was going to happen. And that sort of had nothing to do with anything. It was just like solely random. And when I get to spoilers, I'll talk about how that could have been what the movie was, and it still would have made a lot of sense. Like it probably would have been like a little bit better. Some things would have been a little bit better if it was the sword. But overall, it was just like it's an okay movie. They talk about the wands. It's a fantasy world, but kind of like our world. So there's orcs, there's elves, there's fairies, there's humans, there's centaurs. There's supposed to be 9 races, but we only see them. So it's the humans, centaurs, orcs, elves, and the fairies. So and I think there's a dragon in there. There's a dragon like at the end of the movie. So I guess if you count that as a race, that's 6 races. And so we still got a couple to be revealed when they do a sequel, because I believe the movie already did get picked up to have a second movie. Which oddly enough, this should have been the second movie. With some of the stuff that happened, it was just like there's this huge setup with legends and things like that, and none of that really plays a part. And I'll get like I said, more into that as far as spoilers, just for people who still haven't checked it out. But there's just elements where it's like I feel like that was going to be a part of the movie. You do like this epic setup with the opening, and there's legends within the world and all this grand stuff, and it's like I think we should have seen that first, or that should have just been what the movie was, even if it was said in the way it was said during, I guess, modern times for the movie. It's still stuff that just seemed like it was missing, because there's so much that's talked about that doesn't even really play a part. It's almost like I get world building, but it was so much setup. It was just like full on what you set up could have been a movie in itself, and probably will be when we get the sequel. But going into it, like I said, it was just like, all right, I'm curious to see how this plays out. For me, I'd watch it. I was kind of doing other stuff, so I think I saw it in like the perfect way, where it was like, oh, I'm catching this, I'm catching that. I wasn't picking up on a lot of the little stuff, like the orcs, just being black people. It was super obvious, but I wasn't picking up on how much, like, I guess, social commentary it was in the film. I didn't even pay much attention to that. And then when I would watch other reviews and they talked about it, I was like, oh, I guess that was in there. But I was like, doing other stuff, so I wasn't even paying that much attention to it. But I definitely noticed it. It was still more than obvious enough to be like, oh, orcs are black people, okay, and everybody hates orcs. So it was like super obvious, and it didn't. Like it was almost, there was really no point to it. Like it was in there, but it didn't really ultimately didn't play a part in the story. It was a lot like some of the build up that they did for the world. It was like, yeah, it's in there, but it's not really a part of the story, outside of the fact that Jacoby, who is like the main orc character, aside from the fact that he's an orc who all the humans hate, I was like, all right, well, I mean, yeah, they hate him, but it's still not like that big of a part of the movie. Ultimately, I mean, they had the one segment where it's like super minor spoiler, but there's a part where basically it's the full on stop resisting mode, and people are just getting beat the f up, or the orcs are, and Will Smith's character turns to Jacoby. I think it's Ward. Yeah, Will Smith's character name is Ward. So Ward turns to Jacoby and is like, I need to know that you're an orc, or you're a cop first and not an orc first, and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, that was about as big as it got. But then it was still all throughout the movie, all the generic stereotypes and stuff. So it was in there, but it wasn't even really that type of movie. So it was almost kind of like a detriment to even have it as a point, because it wasn't even the main focus of the movie. It was almost like a minor side element to this entire crazy magic journey and disaster of a night for these two characters with this magic wand. But then, as a part of the setup, it's just like, yeah, check out how everybody hates orcs, like black people, and that was pretty much it. So it was like it didn't even really play a part in the movie; it was just in the movie. So it was like, like if it's a part, if it's the main point of the movie, it makes way more sense. But in this case, it was just there, and it was like, okay, it's not even really a part of the movie. It's just like a part of the setup of the movie. And then after that, it's just everybody hates orcs, and that's pretty much it. It doesn't really mean anything. It's just there. So it's like, all right. Like I said, going through, I was doing other stuff, so I didn't really pay much attention to that. I just noticed, like, super obvious. So as they're going through, they go through the element of, okay, now we have this crazy magic wand. We have magic wands, you have brights, obviously the title of the film. These are people that can use magic wands. That's pretty much it. Like, that is the whole point of the movie. A magic wand is revealed. It's like, holy crap. Everyone wants the magic wand because it's a magic wand. As they say, there's a line in the movie where they say it's like a nuclear weapon that can grant wishes. So that's pretty much it. Everyone's going for it. You have some cool action sequences. You have some really idiotic moments where it's like, you just did this and yet you can't do that. Stupid stuff like that, which, like I said, I'll get into with the spoiler half. Ultimately, it comes down to it, it's like, okay, yeah, surprise, that happened. This happened. Why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do that? And then the movie ends, and that was pretty much it. I was like, okay, simple movie. Like I said, I didn't hate it or anything like that. I just thought, simple movie, not that big of a deal. Curious what they're gonna do with this sequel because big thing about it. I think why people were so upset with it and saying it's the worst thing ever. I think is because of the concept. It's so freaking cool, and a lot of people like me were excited. And then you get into it, and it's like, oh, it's not nearly as cool as kind of how it seemed. And that's just how it is. So that's what I think overall. It's kind of like right in the middle for me. It's just like, it's okay. I thought the action sequences were actually kind of cool. Even once again, that will lead into some spoilers. There's some elements where it's like epic action sequence, and then you have stuff where I was having like kind of Iron Fist moments where it's like, oh, that was a cool sequence, and then the next scene is like, this just happened, so why is this happening? It doesn't make a lot of sense. It doesn't really connect. So I don't know. You have to decide to yourself if you really want to see it. I can't really say either way. It's really one of those movies where it's like, I'm just right in the middle. So I can't really say like, oh, I think it's good because of this. I think the action sequences are cool, so definitely check those out. But other than that, it's just like, it's just a movie. It's okay. We'll see what happens with the sequel. So this is officially where I get into spoilers for the movie and stuff like that. So if you haven't seen it, check it out if you want to. Or if you don't care, I'm just going to spoil it and say the weird stuff that happened in the movie. So just starting from the beginning, the big thing that I think is an issue with this movie is the setup where it's like, I mentioned the stuff where it's like, oh, orcs are black people and that's just there and it's kind of pointless. It's just in there. They have this huge setup where it's like there's this ancient battle that happened 2,000 years ago where all the races joined together except for the orcs, I believe, which is why everyone hates orcs. And they joined up with this Dark Lord who is also an elf, but nobody seems to hate elves. Because the Dark Lord is an elf. Like, you see it in graffiti and stuff. It's like, that dude's totally an elf. So I don't know why everyone hates orcs, but nobody seems to hate elves. That's super weird. But I don't know. It's weird. I guess all the orcs joined him, and maybe only some of the elves did. I'm not 100% sure. They don't explain it. But everyone hates orcs. No one hates the elves. But there's this super Dark Lord who can be resurrected with 3 magic wands. It was like, okay, that's totally, this is movie 101. You set up this ancient legend where you can be resurrected with 3 wands. That's totally going to be a part of the film, and they're going to resurrect this Dark Lord. That doesn't happen. There's not even more than 1 wand in the movie, actually. There's just 1. And they go through the whole process, and it's just like, this is another one of the things. Brights can touch the wands, and anyone else who touches it would die. Human brights are like 1 in a million. It's like, okay, obvious setup. I wonder who could, where might that 1 in a million person come from? So they talk about that. Obviously, it's going to be Will Smith's character. What I thought was cool was when I was going into it thinking that it was the sword that was the wand, I thought that would have made way more sense if the sword was actually like the wand in disguise, or, like certain elements can be imbued with magical power and they become wands. I thought that made way more sense because it was just like, and like I said, this was going into it because I thought the trailer, it was like, oh, the sword was Excalibur, the sword was the thing, and it would have made way more sense because it was like, oh, Will Smith goes up to this dude, he's talking about this prophecy when they're in the car, like, your friend is blessed and all this stuff. I was like, oh, he already knows that because Will Smith took the sword from him like it was nothing. It was just like, give me the sword, and he just walked away because nothing happened to him. He didn't like explode. So I was like, oh, okay, so that sword was the wand, and they're gonna do it, and it was just, that was like the cool little way to be like, hey, he already took it, and that's why the guy said he was blessed. That's what I thought going into. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, he picked up the sword, and this sword was supposed to be this magic wand that was amazingly powerful, and it would have killed anyone else that touched it, but it proved that he was, a bright. So I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. And they do the reference to be like, oh, it's 1 in a million and stuff like that. And then it would just be revealed, a little bit later, like the sword itself was the magic wand. It's like, oh crap, we'll touch it like in the beginning of the movie, something like that. Even though they made it super obvious with the 1 in a million humans and all that stuff, they made it insanely obvious anyway. But I thought that was still cool when they did like the first reference. And it was like, before they threw in the human part of it, they could have just been like, a bright can touch a wand and no one else could, you would die. So I was like, oh, okay. I put two and two together thinking that it was the sword still. That's super awesome. I was like, that's a cool way to do that, where like the sword is the magic wand and he touched it and nobody knew anything. And it was just like, yeah, he's a bright because he touched this magical sword. And then it was like, no, that sword meant nothing. And they go through the whole human brights are 1 in a million. That's super obvious. And then there was an actual magical wand. I was like, oh, well, that threw away some of the cool little mystery where it's like, surprise, this sword was the magic wand the whole time. I thought that would have been way cooler because it would have already been shown that he picked it up and nothing happened, and they could have gone through like lesser obvious dialogue. But then it didn't matter anyway because the sword wasn't the magic wand. So it goes through, they get the wand, and they talk about how, people can't use it anyway. So I have to wonder, in all honesty, if they stole the magic wand, like the people, like Ward's cop buddies, could they have even used it if they weren't physically touching it? Because he uses the bag to like pick it up and stuff, and I'm like, okay, well, could he actually use it if he's kind of holding it, or do they have to physically hold it? Like, they don't ever actually explain that either, because it's like, well, you can't touch it, so can you even use it? And it's little stuff like that. It's just like, I'm not 100% sure, because once again, it's not exactly explained. But it doesn't matter. They want to kill Ward. They want to kill Jacoby. They're going to kill them both, but they come up with the fake plan to have Ward go outside, so that gives him like the cool, which I still love that sequence where he turns around in slow motion and he kills all of them based on height or whatever. Cool sequence, even though there was some stuff where like the bullets were like exploding like way off in the background. I was like, I'm super confused. Like, there were sparks going off, and I was like, I know it's not the people falling shooting at random, like there were no guns pointed to the side, but he would pull the trigger, a person would get shot, and then he would pull the trigger again and there'd be a spark like 10 feet behind him and like 5 feet off to the right. And I was like, what's happening though? Why'd they put sparks over there? It didn't make any sense. I was like, that's not a ricocheting bullet. It was like he shot, hit someone on target right in front of him, and then shot, and the bullet just went like, right over to the side. And I was like, that's weird. Like, watch that slow motion sequence again and look at like the background. There's a bullets just hitting the background like way far away from any of the people. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever, but it was in there. Like, I couldn't help it, especially in slow motion. I was like, okay, boom, he hit that person. Boom, he hit the wall 5 feet away. Boom, he hit the person again. And then boom, another spark came up. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense. But still liked the shot, thought it was cool. Then they go through the process of being assaulted by like the gang that's there, and then they chase them down. Somehow they found them. Like, everybody kept finding them. Like, when they found them in the strip club, they were like 1,000,000 miles away from them. They went through a secondary club with the orcs and stuff, and then somehow they got to the strip club and they were still found by like the Latin gang. And I was just like, how did they even find them going through all this stuff? So somehow they ended up finding them, and this is where it got like super stupid, because like a few minutes before, they drop the wand. Jacoby drops the wand. He's like, oh crap, I dropped the wand. And this guy like slides on the ground and picks it up, and he's like, I got it. Everybody in the room gets killed. Like everyone in that vicinity gets like absorbed into the wand and just like bursts in the dust. Everybody dies, except for obviously the main characters. So all the bad guys that were chasing them just explode into dust and ash, and they're just like, the room gets all smoky because they just exploded. So then they get into the strip club, and it's like, okay, the dude asked for the wand. He's like, just give me the wand so I can heal myself and, do whatever random gang stuff. It's like, no. And I'm just like, they know that if he just, like, I mean, they have it in the bag, but obviously if he just flicked it over and somebody just caught it at random and they weren't even thinking, they were just like, cool, I got it, they all would have been dead. Or it would have been like the 1 in a million thing. But I don't think the main characters knew that. I think that was just the one dude who was a part of like that special prophesized gang or whatever. So I was just like, all they had to do was just flick the wand over, and they just saw it too, so they knew what would have happened if if you were a magic user. So it was like, all they had to do was flick the wand over. They were trapped anyway, so it was like, they might as well toss it over and give them the wand just to see if they all blow up. Or, if not, then just go out in a gunfight, because they were trapped anyway. It literally made no difference what they did in that situation. But it was like, oh, we just saw this like 10 minutes ago. let's just flick it over, and if they catch it, because they won't be thinking, they'll just grab it with their bare hands, they're all dead. Like, they'll just get absorbed into it or whatever, and they'll just all explode. And they have an argument where they don't end up doing that, and I was like, this makes no sense. They just saw this random guy grab it that was chasing them down. He got blown to smithereens, and so did like a couple of other people around him. So all these people are packed right next to each other. Just flick the wand over, let them grab it, and die. But they have an argument, and when they're finally about to go into like a blaze of glory, that's when the elves, like the ninja elves, show up, and they're just flipping and kicking people. They're like full on ninja mode, which I thought was cool. Like they were just beating the crap out of all these people and just shooting them up in pinpoint accuracy. Also, it was like John Wick, but with elves. So they're just going through and they assassinate everybody, and it's crazy. And then they go and they get in contact with like the one dude that wore trust at the gas station. He gets killed off, and that's when they fight. They have to fight the elves. Which suddenly the elves suck because they beat up like a dozen people as a trio, and then they go up against Warden and Jacoby, and I can't even remember the other girls, the young girl's name, but they're trying to kill them, and it's just like they can't do it all of a sudden. They're like in cars and everything, and it's just like nope, they're getting flipped around and hit by cars, and they're dodging bullets a little bit, and it's like they couldn't manage to pull that off. That's interesting. So they heroes escape and all that stuff, and then you go through and. Really, after that, nothing. I don't think anything happens except for the fact that Will Smith is revealed to be a Bright. I mean, in all honesty, I feel like after that moment, nothing significant happened. They kind of made the deal at the gas station to be like, hey, we're the good guys and stuff like that, which also was a weird thing because after they made the deal, like, hey, we're not going to get in trouble, his buddy was like, we got to handcuff him because they're going to kill you, or if he's not handcuffed and all this weird stuff, even though they just made the deal to not do that. And I get him not trusting him, but at the same time I don't. Point is, they keep going, oh, Jacoby died, that's what happened. Jacoby died, that was something that happened in the middle. He died, and then the girl used her power to bring him back to life, even though she could have like blown everybody away, to not use her, to not have him die. So that was something. The kid that he let escape was the kid that was there. Apparently that's directly from Training Day. I haven't seen Training Day in forever, but apparently that's like exactly what happened in Training Day. It's written by the same director, or written by the same guy. So it's like the exact same sequence happened, except in Training Day they lived because of that moment, and in this it was like, okay, get out of here, and then he still kills him anyway. Which personally, I guess because I didn't realize it was from Training Day, I thought that was cool because that always happens where it's like he saved my life, and it's like, okay, I'll let you go free. But then he was just like, okay, you get out of here, son, and he still killed him. I actually thought that was kind of cool. I was like, okay, you never see that. People are always like, oh, you saved my son, I'm gonna let you go. That never happens where people still kill the person. So personally speaking, I was like, I thought that was actually kind of cool, but I didn't realize he basically took it from his own movie. So I could see why people didn't like that scene. But for me, I was like, that's actually a nice twist on that generic element of like the emotional buildup where it's like, okay, I'll let you live because you let my son go. And instead it was just like, nah, boom, and he still killed him anyway. And I was like, I actually thought that was kind of cool because we never see that happen, but didn't matter because he died, and then he's brought back to life, and then it's like, oh crap, prophecy, he's been brought back by I was about to say a witch, but a magic user, whatever. And then they end up going back to the building that they were first at in the beginning of the movie, and then they fight the elves, they blow one's head off, they like put like C4 on the other one, and she blows up in half or whatever, and then they fight the last woman, and surprise, surprise, Will Smith is a Bright. He uses the wand and kills her off. And she vanishes. The other girl disappears. I don't know if he killed her or not. Like I was like half paying attention. Even when I started to pay attention at the end, I was like, I don't know if he killed her or she just naturally, like, I don't know if that was like a Star Wars Force Ghost mode or what happened to her. I don't know. She was gone. And then she came back at the end, so I don't know what the deal was with that. But that was pretty much the movie. It was like, okay, some stuff happened. Some cool stuff happened. A lot of nonsensical stuff happened. A lot of just bad writing elements happened where it's like, this happened, but you didn't do this in the very next moment. So lots of weird stuff. But all in all, like I said, I still enjoyed elements of the movie. I didn't hate the movie. It was just, I see why people don't like it, but I don't see why people say it's the worst thing that came out. It's like, I don't know. But we'd love to know what you guys thought about this movie. All of it, spoilers, non-spoilers, just in general, what were your thoughts? How would you have changed things up? Like I said, I thought it was going to be the Excalibur deal, but that's just me. I think that would have worked a little bit better, too, with the fact that it could have been that subtle way of being like, yeah, he's a Bright, but then they did the super obvious stuff, the 1 in a million humans. It's like, there's one human that even matters in this movie. What's going to happen? So, yeah, it's just me. The little stuff I would have changed up, but like I said, I want to know what you guys thought about the movie, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, least favorite parts about it. If we get a sequel, or which we're supposed to, what do you want to see from it? What would it matter? Like, what is it? Does it even matter to you? Just let me know what you guys think about that. Just in general, the whole thing and ideas of a sequel, what you would make out of a sequel. So definitely let me know. And of course, thanks for watching.